Hello, everyone. Welcome to our community conversation here today, Senate District 22, which is meant to help us get to know our local elected leaders and find out all the wonderful things that they've been doing. Today, I have the great honor of introducing the mayor of Azusa, Mayor Robert Gonzalez. I want to read his bio, but I hope that all of you watching get to know him personally, get to know the city, and again, be able to appreciate all the work that they're doing behind the scenes that I know a lot of the times as residents, we don't get to hear. And so once again, want to thank the mayor. And if I may, I want to read his bio first. Mayor Robert Gonzalez is a lifelong resident of Azusa and Azusa Unified School District graduate. He has served on the Azusa City Council since 2007 and elected to mayor in 2020. He has served on the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments, the Homeless Committee. He's a director of LA County Sanitation District, director for the San Gabriel Valley Water, Mosquito and Vector Control District, and the San Gabriel Valley Water Quality Authority. He spearheaded and now is a member of the North San Gabriel Riverbed Working Group in partnership with cities of Duarte and Irwindale. He and his beautiful wife, Rochelle, are parents to two daughters, Alexia and Sophia. Mayor, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us. We're looking forward to, once again, getting to know you personally, getting to know your city, the projects, and for any other elected official out there from any other city, I think this is a great way for us to share best practices and hopefully spark ideas in other communities, in other cities. So welcome. How are you today?
I'm good, Senator. Thank you for having us. We are doing beautiful here in the city of Azusa, and I just want to take this opportunity to thank you for all the work that you do for our district and our community here in the city of Azusa. Your work is definitely noted and appreciated from my residents here in Azusa. So thank you for having us.
Well, thank you. And again, we're just so honored to have you here. I know your time is limited, but before I get into all the, all the wonderful projects that the city council is working on, I want to take a moment and pause because I know that you were one of the first individuals affected by COVID, and it happened to you at a time that it was unknown. We didn't know where this was headed. We didn't have any information, vaccines. And so I really wanted to give you the opportunity just first of all to tell us how you're doing personally, some of the challenges and anything else that you think it's important for our community to know.
I appreciate that. And without going too much into detail, I was one of the first casualties of the COVID. When I was elected in March of 2020, we had just started the pandemic, mandates. And as we navigated through a city, I thought we did very well of handling that crisis. But lo and behold, I became a victim of the COVID-19 in November of 2020. And I was intubated 2 different times, 2 different comas, just short of 40 days in the hospital. And this is before vaccines were available. And so my body has still not recovered. And this is coming up on 2 years now. I suffer from atrophy from the intubations, a lot of different issues. I have what they call baby lungs, which is the occupancy of half my lung capacity of a normal adult. I also suffer from, they call COVID dust. So these new terms that they come out with, my doctor, I feel like a guinea pig for lack of a better term, but I am still recuperating for lack of a better term. So anybody out there that gave you the old notion that this wasn't real or it's the same as the flu or cold, that is very misleading. I'm 52 years old and I've had plenty of flus and colds, and it's never done what it's done to my body. So the vaccines, I'm not here to wag my finger at you and say, get the vaccine, but you don't hear a lot of people dealing with long haulers effect that got the vaccination. So I strongly suggest that you If you haven't got it already, consider it. I'm the unofficial poster boy for the COVID, and I'm okay with that. If my story says, hey, if I tell somebody like, you don't want to go through what I'm going through now, then you can strongly consider getting a vaccination, going through the protocols. We're still in it. I know things are looking very good, and we're coming out of it, but we're still, affected by this disease, and unfortunately, I may have to wear this badge for a long time.
Well, thank you, Mayor, for sharing such a personal story. I know it's not comfortable sometimes to talk about some of our challenges, and I appreciate the fact that you want to educate our community. And I have to say, I echo your sentiments. It's not about forcing anyone to do anything they don't want to do, but it's important to hear some of these stories. I personally was a little shocked. I sit on health committee, and we just had an informational hearing, and we think of COVID as an older people, virus, or it affects older people only. And I have to say that in that informational hearing, we had a young lady who was 22 years old. And, she started a support group for young individuals who suffer from COVID and the after effects. As you said, they're calling them the long hauler COVID, effects. And she had over 3,000 individuals that already belong to this group. So that just gives you a sense of how many of our youth are being affected. I'll just share very quickly. She shared she was a runner before getting COVID. She used to run at least 3 miles every single day. And after she was impacted, not only has she not been able to go out running, but she has a really difficult time coming outside her home. She has a little bit of a phobia where she feels, being around people endangers her. And there's so many who have also expressed that they're having a hard time being around people and social gatherings. So what I gather from this informational hearing is a lot of psychological effects that happen just based on their personal experience. And so the fact that you're willing to share is important. And again, as you said, we're not here to tell anyone to do something they don't want to do, but it's important to hear this. I personally was saddened when I heard one of our youth here in our community say that they were trying to get it just to get it over with because they were going to get it anyway. And I feel that that is not a way to go because, as you stated, you're still dealing with some of the aftermath 2 years later. You talked about things that happened to your lungs, and I just shared what happened to that young lady who's still dealing with it. And so it affects everyone in a different way. Some are luckier, some are not as lucky. And so whatever we need to do to try to prevent that from happening to us, I think we should do. So again, I want to move on from this topic, but it's not often that someone wants to share that personal experience. So I appreciate you for doing that. So now we're going to transition into another topic, which is, all the great work that you're doing in your city, along with your city council. And I want to give you an opportunity to share some of the things that you're doing. I know there's a lot of projects going on. All you have to do is drive around Azusa, and you see the construction happening. But I know in particular, you're tackling affordable housing. I know that you're also bringing the country's largest organ transplant hospital. Yes. So I want to hear about that. And also anything else that you think it's important for us to know in terms of development and growth. I'll turn it over to you.
Well, I appreciate that, Senator. And it's a team. It's teamwork amongst my colleagues on the council. Our Mayor Pro Tem Mendez, Councilmember Eddie Alvarez, Councilmember Avila, and Councilmember Beckwith. We have a vision of where we want to take our city, and this is from previous administrations to now we're getting the fruits of our labor. And I've been on the past 15 years, have been a part of the concept, and now I'm getting able to see the completion. We have the Orchard, which is a mixed-use development that will be pretty much completed by within the next couple months, which is on Azusa and Foothill. Beautiful building. As you see, it's just about complete. We just broke ground on the Lumia project, which is across the street from Target on 9th and Azusa Avenue. That is a sister project of the Orchard. That will have 127 units, mixed use, right along our goal line. So we're understanding that the need for housing is important to our community. We know that there's a shortage of inventory in California, and that's one of the ideas of as we tackle the housing issues, we have to be cognizant of what we're mandated to do. We understand our arena number is 26, but we're not afraid of that number. We embrace it. We know that as affordable housing and any type of housing allows more people to come, more people to call your neighbor. And that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. It's just a matter of, how to do it correctly and how to do it responsibly. But we're excited about those opportunities. We're definitely excited about some of the funding that you've been able to do from the Regional Housing Trust, and having that tool that will help some of the developers cross the finish line with some of those developments. So, having that at your fingertips, Senator, is extremely important to all, not just Azusa, but all the regions. So we thank you for working hard and understanding that here with our needs as well.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing. As you heard, anyone listening out there, pretty soon we're going to have a lot more housing in Azusa, thanks to the mayor and the council. And going back to what you just mentioned, the housing trust, I don't know if a lot of individuals listening to us today know I was a local council member for a long time. I sat on the dais of Baldwin Park City Council, and I understood firsthand some of the challenges that our local communities are facing. And when I started running for Senate, I remember I went knocking on doors, as we all do as we're campaigning, and that homeless issue kept coming up over and over again, lack of affordable housing, because we know that there's housing, but then there's the affordability piece. We have to be able to put our families in a good place where they can actually afford to buy a house. And so, yes, it's, and I believe you just mentioned it, it's a lot of collaboration. And I found that as a council member, it was very isolating, because I think we all have great ideas, and we want to see our communities flourish, but sometimes it's that lack of funding or lack of access. And so one of the things that I wanted to do as a state senator was figure out how we collaborate. Regionally, I know it affects all of us equally. And I think if we can work together is a better solution. And so being able to create the housing trust that now the COG is overseeing was one of my, I would say, biggest prides, because I know now that it's giving opportunities not only to folks to be able to buy affordable houses, but also we have some projects that are going on. There are literally taking homeless individuals off the street and putting them in a safe place where they get fed 3 times a day. And then they see the opportunity at the end of the road. That means they're also going to be getting some training so that there is work opportunities. And so everything that we do collectively, I think, is very important. And I think that's why these discussions matter, because I hope that other councils out there and other communities out there, they don't have to be within our own region, but get ideas and see what collaboration looks like. And so thank you, Mayor, because you've been instrumental in working on these housing issues. And I also know that you are part of the board. Am I correct on that? And
yes.
So as a board member, you get to see all these projects firsthand, get to make decisions on them, and get to push funding out to make sure that we close that gap. But I want to talk about something else that you've been doing, which is, I think, pretty incredible. Before I move forward, I want to say that the reason there's a special place in my heart for Azusa is that I did go to Azusa Pacific University. I got my bachelor's there and I got my master's in educations there. So I really called it home for a long, long time. And I remember what it looked like 20 years ago when I was in college. I remember we had very little opportunity to roam the streets and go to different restaurants. And I mean, there were restaurants and there's opportunities, but not like today. We have so much more. It gives me great pride when I drive the streets and I see how much it's growing and how much we have now for our youth. I remember, for those of you that are from Azusa, I remember going to the theater. You had a $1 theater, the campus and the students, we couldn't afford the theater. So whenever you can go see a movie for $1 or at least, be able to do something with your friends that didn't break the bank, it was always, welcome. But I know that you're growing in terms of coffee shops and eateries and housing opportunities. So I couldn't be more thankful, and I hope that all the new students at Azusa Pacific University appreciate what they have now. But so again, it's all thanks to the council, the mayor, and collectively, the community. So I want to move over to something that you've been doing that again, as a resident, I don't get to hear. I get to hear it as an elected leader, but I think it's important for your community to know everything that you're doing. So I want you to share a little bit of what you're doing in the riverbed as it pertains to cleaning up the riverbed, collaborating with others, and helping the homeless individuals that are having a really hard time. Would you like to share a little bit about that?
Absolutely, Senator. When I became mayor back in 2020, if you remember back 2 years ago, we had a number of catastrophic fires in our riverbed and our foothills. And I could probably tell you it was three major fires. They weren't little by any stretch of the imagination. And over the course of time, we had a number of fires. And unfortunately, the folks that had encampments in the riverbed were starting them. So at that time, myself and Mayor Kang of DeWardy, who was the mayor in 2020, worked collaboratively with Grace Napolitano's office and Hector Alzadi, if you remember, and worked with and got together with the city of Irwindale because we shared the same geographic riverbed together. And we understood that it wasn't a matter of just doing evictions. It was a matter of having compassion, and having a place where we could say, look, folks, this is not the place for you to be. One, it's federal land, so it is trespassing. And two, it's Azusa's jurisdiction to a point of Foothill Boulevard. But DeWardy and ourselves had said, let's tackle this together. The three cities have rode the same way, have been consistent with the same messaging. And together we have worked on, we call it the Riverbed Working Group, and each city's leaning in aggressively to tackle those housing issues and those resources that the folks, not just in the riverbed, but in our own communities that need help and support. The riverbed was just a start for us to tackle. I know traditionally in years prior, before I became mayor, we would do one cleanup every year, one. Since 2020, we have done a dozen cleanups in the riverbed. Unfortunately, there's folks in there that still find a desire to be in there. And we're working on that to get those folks the resources that they need. But like you said, it's very difficult for folks to get the resources to them because they have to want to get the resources. And that's the hurdle that we come across. Our HALO team, which is our homeless liaison officers, deal directly with our homeless community. And so we work on getting resources. We don't look at enforcement. We look at getting these folks pointed in the right direction, getting the resources that they deserve, and getting the help that they need. I'm very excited that our council has taken a further step. We've implemented $1.9 million towards dealing with the homeless issue and looking at a possible shelter. And I've been on for 15 years and we've never had these discussions up to this point. So I'm very proud of my colleagues wanting to tackle this issue. And we're not kicking it down the road. We're not, burying our heads in the sand. It's affecting all of us. And I've always stated if every city, leaned in a little bit, we can work on getting to a decent place with the homeless. And my answer has always been, I don't have the answer to homeless. I'm not here to solve it. I just would like to get to a better place, for it and help folks. And I'll use a phrase of a good friend of mine. We are not trying to be perfect. So I don't let perfect get in the way of good. And so I hope Azusa is doing, doing good in this regard.
Well, and you just said it right now. I think that none of us have the answers by ourselves. And as I stated earlier, as a council member, it was really frustrating to try to figure out things because we all want to do the right thing. We see the humanity, when we see people living on the street, these encampments that I know some of us, have tried really hard to help out. And you said something really interesting that sometimes our homeless population doesn't want to leave, but at times, we used to talk to some of our homeless population, and what they would share with us is that they want to get help, but they feel that it's temporary. So sometimes they find a good location for all of us. Real estate is prime location, right? And for them as well, when they find a place that's dry, that it's safe, and there's not a lot of sun, they want to keep it. When we offer services and we only try to help them for a few weeks and they feel that they're going to end up homeless again, they don't want to let go of the space that they have created for themselves. And so that's why I think collaboration, as you stated, is extremely important. And I'm really glad you were able to talk to Irwindale and the other cities. So this is something that I think other communities can do. Find your closest cities and see if there's a collaboration there. It takes all of us trying to work towards solutions. They're not perfect, as you stated. We're just trying to make sure we do the greater good. And then I think that you've done a tremendous job there. So I will say this, thank you so much. I'm sure that all those individuals that you're helping appreciate it. And I know that you don't get the thank you sometimes that you deserve. I've heard things from, they're just kicking all the homeless out to, the other extreme. But I do know one thing, when you do it, it's done in a sensitive way. You do take into consideration not only removing them, but how do we get them, permanent housing, services, whether it's mental health services, substance abuse services. And so everyone's trying to do what we can. I want to just send a quick shout out to the City of Baldwin Park as well. As you know, they've just created the first tiny home in the San Gabriel Valley, which was 25 housing units that were able to house 25 individuals, take them right off the street. And as I mentioned before, now they're getting fed and services and workforce development and everything that we think that is necessary so they don't go back into their original circumstance. So want to thank you for that. You also mentioned the fires and again, because I know Azusa really well, I know how close the mountains are to the homes, and during some of the fires, the Bobcat fire in particular, I had residents that know me from Azusa calling me, crying. They were very fearful that the fire was coming very close, and and rightfully so. Some of the communities are nestled right in between the mountains, and it's a scary thing when you see your entire life possibly dismantled and destroyed. And so I was honored to be able to also sit in the Senate. We created a wildfire working group, wildfire and climate resiliency working group, and we spent 2 years. I was the co-chair along with Majority Leader Senator McGuire, trying to figure out how do we bring solutions, how do we bring funding to our communities. And I was happy at the time. It was a great partnership with the governor as well as the assembly. We were trying to figure out how do we get money right now. At the time, it was called early action because we don't necessarily finalize the budget until the end of the year around June. But at that time, we started having discussions in January, trying to see how we get you guys resources. And I believe you mentioned when the fires were breaking out, it was very difficult. The need was so great. And so sometimes we're having to pick up the pieces after the fact. And so we wanted to be proactive. I was part of negotiating over $500 million in early action that went to many communities across the state. But I was very proud to be able to bring the Azusa Mountains $12 million to tackle issues like watershed protection and restoration. We tackled a lot of grants to offer homeowners to home harden their homes. So in other words, sometimes individuals don't realize what's dangerous, what's not. And so a lot of educational funding went in there as well. How do we educate our communities as a whole to make their homes safer? How do we retrofit them? And sometimes people want to do that, but again, the funding is gone, it's not there. So we were able to bring funding, and Mary, you were there when we had the press conference. 12 million goes a long way to make sure that at least our community feels that we're being proactive, that there's a little bit of funding, grants that they can go after, and we'll continue to push on that end. But thank you, Mayor, for your collaboration in that respect as well. And so I guess the theme is today, and I hope it continues to be, is that collaboration between the local, the state, and the federal government to take care of our communities. So I appreciate that collaboration. But I want to talk now a little bit about something that's important to me as a teacher. One of the reasons I became a teacher is initially I wanted to be a history teacher. I appreciate the history of communities. I appreciate the history of our state, our national government. I'm a historian at heart, and I like everything history. So I know that there is an old house in your city that has a lot of history. And I did not know that until I started talking to you. So I hope that our community also hears about it. But please tell us about this particular house that you want to save, and tell us a little bit of the history that is behind this structure.
And you are referring to the, as we call it affectionately, the old schoolhouse. And it is the oldest single room classroom in the San Gabriel Valley. And it's located at Slauson Middle School, which is on the corner of 4th and Angelino. And a lot of folks that live in that area pass by that house 100 times a day and would never know that that is the oldest schoolhouse in the San Gabriel Valley. Our city clerk is our unofficial historian. We'll probably date it 120 years plus. But for us, it's not just about the oldest schoolhouse. I mean, it was out before Glendora was incorporated, DeWardy was incorporated, Irwindale, and there's unofficial notes that the kids from Glendora, Covina, Irwindale, DeWardy, they went to this schoolhouse. And you imagine, you imagine 100 years later, no way. But remember, the population wasn't as sparse back then as is now. So it's very, very likely that a lot of folks in the area went to this particular landmark. So working with the school district and not allowing them to destroy it, and having conversations and taking on this endeavor, we have taken on the responsibility of taking the schoolhouse from the school board and working with them, and going to take on the endeavor to refurbish it. But as an elected official, there's also a significant to it, and this is the cultural side of it, is, and I will say this bluntly, back 80, 90 years ago, there was only two races back then. There was the whites and there was the Mexicans. And if you were white, you got to go to City Hall and vote for your council member. If you were Mexican, you had to go to the old schoolhouse to vote. And that's the way it was for years. And for me, it has cultural significance on where our electric process has gone. Here I am, Latino, and I'm the mayor of this community. Maybe 100 years ago, that wouldn't be the case, because I had to go to a specific site to go vote. And in the day and age of council culture, we have a golden opportunity to save something, save history. And so I take this with gleam and hope and happiness that we can get this project complete. And with your help, Senator, I know that this is a project that's near and dear to you, and I appreciate your team constantly communicating with us and on the updates on where we are. And I look forward to working with you to get this project across the finish line. I know the community is extremely excited. I know my city clerk would probably be the best guy to give you the historical walkthrough or history lesson, but I hope I did it justice this afternoon.
Well, thank you for sharing. And for me, and yes, the teacher in me gets really excited about this, and I definitely will continue to work. We want to make sure we get the funding to save it, refurbish it. But I want to thank your city clerk, Mr. Cornejo, correct? City Clerk
Yes.
Cornejo. I always talk to him about, just my passion for history, how I just love hearing these stories, and I like to collect even vintage pins that are rare, and he's actually been helpful in collecting some pins for me. But I want to just talk about some of the cultural history, just everything that you do. When I have visited Azusa and I run into families, it's really interesting to hear things like my great grandfather was one of the first that settled here, or my great grandmother, and they tell me the stories of how they've seen the community grow, and of course that happens. Every single community, right? We have a history, but there's still some of the families that were one of the first settlers still there. In fact, I think you have at the Azusa Golden Day Parade, which is a great opportunity where you get to see everyone come out. It's a parade where the community, you take a lot of pride in what you do, and it just seems from generationally you have our grandkids, children, great grandfathers, and it's just amazing to see the entire community come together and talk about a little bit of the history, honor some of the individuals who make Azusa the wonderful place it is. And as a reminder, Mayor, it's a good opportunity I know that COVID has given us some challenges in terms of keeping our traditions. And I know that parade has been a staple in your community. Can you update us if you're planning to have it this year? Where are you in terms of getting back to those staple events that we are always looking forward to?
As I understood, as of last week, the parade will look to be done in 2022. And I believe we're celebrating our 74th. Jeffrey will beat me up for it. I believe it's our 74th or 75th, but I believe that they're in discussions on doing it this year in 2022 in October. It's always second Saturday in October.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I know for the city of Baldwin Park, since I had the last community conversation with the mayor, we were trying to catch up, what's coming back, what can we look forward to. So I think if you can share right now with the community, if they wanted to find out events when they happen, where can they find the information in your city? Where should they go to?
They can go to our website, depending on the type of activity that they're looking for. A lot of things are coming back, and through Parks and Rec, through our community development, our community resources. So we will be able to get a lot of those things online. I know that we're bringing concerts in the park back this summer. We just got our lineup actually already this past Monday. So we're excited on plugging that back in, the parade getting plugged back in. So this year looks like it will be the year that the traditional events that we normally do are going to come back. And then you can find that on our website as we get closer to those events that are traditionally happening. I know that we're doing this month, for example, is extremely busy in April for Azusa. We're doing our Clean and Green Month. Tomorrow, for all of you that are listening, we're doing our compost and mulch giveaway at Memorial Park. So come get your free compost and mulch so you can do your spring gardening and getting those events. We're doing our Arbor Day event on the 23rd at Northside Park. We're doing some tree planting that'll be at 8 a.m. And then we're doing our shred event. So if you have unused items that need to be shred paperwork, you can do that on the 16th at Light and Water. So we are plugging back in, Senator, and it feels good to get some normalcy. As you stated, the pandemic paused a lot of things, and we're looking forward to plugging that back in. But we have been able to learn from the pandemic if there's a silver lining on what we've been able to do better. And I'm very proud of our Parks and Rec, our administration on being able to service our community, even in the face of a pandemic. We've done some amazing things, and I can't thank them enough because at the end of the day, your staff makes you look like a superstar, and it's them that do the work. And and we appreciate all the hard work that our staff do to help the council with these endeavors. So I can't thank them enough.
Well, and I want to add to what you're saying. I know, again, as a former council member, we sometimes show up and things are, taken care for us to just show up and do whatever event that it is that we're doing. But staff sometimes is out 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, making sure that everything is perfect. So to the community out there, if you're listening to us, when you have an opportunity and you see either Parks and Recs and some of our staff at the senior centers and anyone that works for the city, let's take a moment to say thank you. They do a very difficult job, but they do it with a smile on their face. And to all the staff members in your city, Mayor, I wanted to also personally say thank you, because I know it's a tough job, and again, we get to enjoy it. So please thank them whenever you have the opportunity. It's important, and hopefully, since we've been in lockdown for 2 years, everyone's eager to get back. And you mentioned concerts in the park, which used to be one of my favorite things to do, because you get to go out and be an ordinary citizen, dance with the seniors, our youth, and for some of us that love dancing, that's just a good way to get out and get to know the community. So please come out and support some of these events. And the more that they support the events, the more that we continue to have. So show a little bit of love to your community by coming out and supporting and saying thank you to the staff. But Mayor, I also, before we go, I want to talk a little bit about some of the challenges our restaurants have had in our stores, but I want to turn it over to you. I want to give you an opportunity to share some of the great restaurants you have. If you needed to plug one that perhaps needs a little bit of support during the tough times, or it's one of your favorite, I'm just going to turn it over to you. What restaurants would you want to highlight for our community? And those of us that are from outside coming into your city, where do you want us to go?
It all depends on what your flavor is. If you like good Mexican food, if you like, Thai food, we have some wonderful restaurants. But before we go into that, I just wanted to thank my council. So on Monday, we earmarked $500,000 to go to grant assistance to some of those businesses that could use the support as they have gone through the pandemic. And these are monies that, hey, these guys wanted to upgrade, or new furniture, fixtures, POS systems for the restaurants. Well, City of Azusa is going to offer grants to help pay for some of those things that they suffered during the pandemic. And I'm very proud of our city. Other cities have different programs, but I'm proud that Azusa's put $500,000 towards helping those businesses, all businesses in the City of Azusa. So please take advantage of this grant process, and hopefully we can get you some help. But I have my own personal favorites we try to visit them all. But for me, it depends on my day. La Torteca has been a staple in Azusa for 60 plus years. And so Max's right up the street, Max's restaurant, right across the street from the Orchard. It's the only place you can, get yelled at where you've been and why not. But we also have Canyon City Barbecue. If you want some good homemade barbecue, that's on San Gabriel and 4th. So it all depends on your flavor. Like I have, my wife loves the Thai restaurant on Sierra Madre. It's a Thai bistro there. I think it's Sawa is Thai. Sawa Thai Bistro is what it's called. My wife loves that. It's very, very good. But I can't plug them all because it's Adelino's Italian. Gabriel, give Gabriel a shout out. Adelino's. I can go on. There's Guadalupe's over on Gladstone and Vernon. They're all great. They're all wonderful. So please, if you get a chance, visit them all, and then you be the judge.
Well, see, now it's lunch hour, right? So just as you're mentioning all these wonderful restaurants, I can just already feel some of these restaurants calling me. So if you haven't had lunch and you are in the surrounding area and want to stop by and visit some of these great restaurants, now it's a great opportunity to do so. And, I also want to thank all the restaurants out there, eateries out there. I know it's been quite the challenge. You haven't been able to be fully open since the pandemic started. And I know we're getting back on track. And I have to say, as the legislature, we also put a lot of funding into supporting our small businesses and our restaurants. But, as a state, the need is so great that I'm really happy to hear, Mayor, that your city in particular has put $500,000 into supporting these local, restaurants. There's a lot of funding out there, but sometimes the challenge is applying for it, competing with other restaurants and getting the funding. And since you have a local program, there's a better opportunity to get it right away, which is always, a good thing. And so again, to all our restaurants out there, our eateries that, have really stood by and still remain open. We want to say thank you for your sacrifice. The pandemic was something that none of us were expecting. We didn't have a playbook, a formula, but yet you all were able to stay open and help our community, and you're still with us. So thank you, Mayor, and please convey thanks to your council as well for voting on this critically important funding source for our restaurants that need that extra support. And we also know that during the pandemic, they had to invest quite a bit of their own personal money to stay open. And that was by way of putting tables outside and umbrellas outside, because we know that we were asked based on CDC recommendations to gather outside rather than inside. So there was a lot of investments there. And this, as a state, we're still focusing very much on trying to secure more funding to help our small businesses. We appreciate you. We really want to support you. And so anything we can do, the mayor locally, myself as a state senator, we want to do so. But we talked about restaurants. So now let's go to shopping. I know I've shopped there quite a bit, so I won't say my favorite because I want you to give us your perspective locally. And again, I want to just be clear. The mayor's not saying he has one favorite versus the other. Like he said, there's a lot of shopping, a lot of eating. So we just want to be able to highlight a few restaurants, a few shops. And so Mayor, any shopping that you've done lately, any favorite store or any big, store that some of us, again, coming into your city should be visiting?
And like I said, it's all personal preference. My wife does my shopping for me for clothes, so I let her loose. But I'm a shoe guy. I love shoes, and when we were able to, and I will say this bluntly, we were able to steal Vans from the city of Glendora, and now we have a Vans shop here at the Citrus Crossing. I'm there constantly. I have more shoes than Imelda Marcos, and I'm okay with that. And I love Vans. I love shoes, and so that's been my personal niche. But we have Target. We have our little mom and pops, and I can't name the names of them offhand. But the idea of this council is to give our residents more opportunities to stay home and shop here. And as the goal of this council is to not have you go to the mall or go to other cities, and then that's what every city should be trying to do is, as they call it, Senator, you probably heard this term, stop the leakage. And that's our goal. And as we get our mixed use developments in play, we're hoping to get some letters of intent with some more retail. And so that's the goal of having more places to shop, not only just for clothes, but for sporting goods or even other types of shopping opportunities that our residents deserve. And so we're working very hard to be able to check that box. But me personally, like I said, I'm a shoe guy. I'll go anywhere and everywhere for shoes. So,
well, I'm still stuck on the fact my wife does the shopping for me. So that must be nice. So I want to say to your wife, thank you for keeping the marriage dressed very nicely. We appreciate you. And I'm sure some people listening to us right now would say, well, maybe I should ask my wife to shop for me too. But, this is a rare occasion. I know your wife personally. I have the privilege of talking to her. She's lovely, so say hello to her. But before we conclude, I also want to make sure that your council is recognized. Mayor, do you mind going down the list of your council members who serves with you, and again reiterating how people can reach out to each and every one of you in case they have questions or they heard something here that they want to engage you on a little further? Where can they reach you? And again, just make sure you go down the list and highlight your council members.
And our information is always on the city's website, from our cell phone numbers to our email addresses. And we appreciate the emails that we do get. And I will go by our new mayor pro tem, Mr. Andrew Mendez, who we just rotated with the reorganization 2 meetings ago. Councilmember Edward Alvarez. We have Councilmember Jesse Avila, and we have Councilmember Dennis Beckwith. Those are my colleagues who I serve with, and they're doing a tremendous job, and I can't thank them for their selfless work that they do for our beautiful community. And I also want to recognize my city manager, Sergio Gonzalez, who works very, very hard to keep herding the cats, as they say, keeping us on the rails and keeping our city moving in a positive direction.
So I also want to commend your city manager, Sergio Gonzalez, who I had the privilege of either sitting in conferences or having conversation personally. He's always pushing on your behalf. So just know that he calls and will make the ask. And so I appreciate his tenacity. So thank you, Mr. Gonzalez, for pushing on that end. But I also know some of your council members have served in the armed forces. So I want to thank them for their service. I think Mr. Alvarez has, served. And also, I believe Mr. Beckwith, who you just appointed, also served, I believe. I'm not sure if, I met them at the VFW the other day, I think it was. So
the casino night, yes.
Right,
and thank
right.
You, and thank you for coming. Thank you for your attendance.
Thank you, but to everyone, not just them, anyone that has actually served our country.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you. I know right now we're going through, not personally as a country, some challenging times. We know we have a war in Ukraine, and we want to send our love and condolences to all the families out there that have lost loved ones, and of course continue to elevate, highlight, and appreciate all our servicemen and women who have put their lives on the line for ourselves, for our country and our freedoms. I also want to take a minute to acknowledge and send my condolences to a former council member who passed recently, who I knew personally. Mayor, I want to give you the opportunity. Can talk about him? I know that he was a service member, but even as he passed, he was still active. So can you please just share a little bit about him? Let's give him a moment.
Yes, thank you, Senator. And as you mentioned, Councilmember Beckwith was appointed last fall as we lost a colleague last summer. Councilmember Uriel Macias passed away last fall, and he was a lieutenant in the Navy, and he was still active. And so his loss, propelled us to appoint Mr. Beckwith, and that's who is serving in his place on the council. But Uriel was a great loss to this community and to this council. And we wish his wife and children the very best. Our prayers are still with her daily, and we look to continue carrying Mr. Macias's legacy on just trying to make Azusa a better place for all of us, for our kids. So thank you for that time.
No, thank you for acknowledging him. I think I knew him around approximately 10 years, and so it it was felt across a region. He had been, a service member, not only to our country, but also to our local community. So I really wanted to make sure that we, finish with sending his wife and children condolences and again, wishing him the best. I also come from a military family. My brother and his wife who also served, just came back from overseas, and we continue to send prayers to those still serving overseas on our behalf. But as we're closing down to the hour, we want to thank everyone that joined us here today. Hopefully you walk away knowing your community a little bit better, knowing your mayor a little bit better, and understanding all the wonderful things they're doing on your behalf. Again, as a local resident, I find things also, later, and it's very informative when I have these community conversations because I get to learn as well. So thank you for all the information you've given us. Thank you for sharing your personal story, your battle with COVID, and now you're what we call the long haul COVID survivor, and for giving us your advice based on your personal experience and highlighting all the wonderful restaurants you have, stores, and we look forward to seeing Azusa continue to grow and be this thriving community that people want to move into, live in. And also I want to send my thanks to the school board, school district, also for all the work that they do on behalf of our students. Mayor, any last minute words you want to leave your community with?
No, Senator, I just want to thank you for allowing this platform to showcase the city of Azusa. It takes a lot of work, like being a public servant, but we appreciate it. We do this because we love our community, we love our families. Like anything, we don't always agree on everything, but at the end of the day, we want what's best for our city. And the decisions that we make are never to hurt, but to help. And so as we move forward and progress and build our community, we just have to go in with the understanding that, when we make a decision, that's going to be laid out for the next, 30, 40, 50 years. And so our legacies will be based on what we do today. And so I'm happy with the progress that we're continuing building here in Azusa. I'm happy for my colleagues because they're a part of this team. It's we, not me. And so, but I can't thank you enough. And I'm going to throw a little shout out to your sister because she is also a tiger up in Sacramento. We appreciate both your work. So I know this is for you, Senator, but thank your sister as well, because the dynamic duo up there are doing a lot of great things for our region. So thank you, and thank you both.
Well, thank you for acknowledging my sister, Assembly Member Blanca Rubio, who also represents the city of Azusa. We're always happy to help. So there you have it. We had a wonderful conversation with Mayor Robert Gonzalez from the city of Azusa. And thank you to your entire council members, staff members, and please look on my website for the next community conversation with your senator, your humble servant, Senator Susan Rubio. Thank you, everyone. And we hope you have a lovely afternoon. Looking forward to the next conversation.